It's no secret the Montreal Canadiens have some bad contracts left over from the Bergevin era. So how has the new guy done? Which contracts on the 2023-24 Montreal Canadiens do you consider the best of the bunch? My list has 8. Whose contracts are they? And in what order do I have them and why? Gotta watch the video to find out, so let's get started right here at Talking Habs. Hey everybody, I'm Rick. Welcome in. In my opinion, the Montreal Canadiens have some pretty good contracts going into the 23-24 season. And that's to sort of offset the bad ones that are still here left over from the Marc Bergevin era. So I've got a list of the ones that I think are the best ones. But before we get to that good list, here's a list of the bad contracts still on the books, in my opinion. Leading off, Carl Alzner, who he's still on the books. It's the last season at $833,000 and a little bit more, and that's the epitome of a bad contract. You had to buy it out, stretched it out over time, and we still have to see his name there. Next up is Christian Dvorak, and maybe it's a little unfair for Christian Dvorak to be there because he's still very serviceable, I think, as a third-line center. He's got 2 years left at $4.45 million. The thing is, if Owen Beck makes the team to start the season, which he probably will, because Dvorak is injured to start the season, then you got to wonder, do you need a guy like Christian Dvorak to still be around? He's good depth to have, definitely in case of injury, but it's expensive. Next up is David Savard. You don't have a lot of experience on the defense, and he's a right-shot defenseman, but 2 years left at $3.5 million. Quite frankly, with the young kids and the talent here, and the fact that we're not really ready to be a contender, maybe David Savard could be, moved, and we don't really need to spend that kind of money there. I think the Habs coaching staff like him, and I don't really think they're going to move him, but he's on my list. Next up, Mike Hoffman. 1 year, $4.5 million. Now, it's not the worst to have a guy who's on his final year. The Habs do have the cap space, so it's not the worst contract, but it's like pretty much unmovable unless Hoffman can actually get something going. At least produce 40 points, 35 by trade deadline time, and I think the Habs hope that they'll be able to move Hoffman at the trade deadline. Next up is Joel Armia. It's not Joel, it's Yoel. Probably the worst of the contracts. He's got 2 years left. It's finally down to 2 years left at $3.4 million, and that's a really big overpayment. It was an overpayment when he signed the deal, and considering his output since then, it is even worse. So we've already had 2 years of it, and I'd like to see us have no more years of it, if they can possibly give him away or waive him and put him in the minors. Then that leaves Brendan Gallagher. Brendan Gallagher signed a 6-year, $6.5 million deal, and we love Brendan Gallagher. So we're happy that he got signed, but not really realizing that somewhere down the road, way before the end of that deal, Brendan Gallagher was going to be, he's not going to live up to the deal, I don't think. And you can't trade it because his body is given out. He's in and out of the lineup, and I don't think you can move this contract with 4 years left. So it's a bad contract. It's not all bad news for the Habs player contracts, because there are some good to great contracts on the club, courtesy of GM Kent the Shark Hughes. His skill as a negotiator and his vision for the team show. And I believe Montreal has a bunch of good to bargain deals on the books for 2023-24. Let me know in the comment section if you agree with me, and give a thumbs up if you like this list. For me, it's a tie at number 7 between Cole Caulfield's $7.85 million and Nick Suzuki's $7.875 million. Virtually identical deals that'll be absolute bargains in a few years, with a rising cap and both players reaching their potential. Even this season, their contracts are good, not overpaid, especially with the expected production of about 40 goals for Cole Caulfield and 80 points for Nick Suzuki. They're the big guns here, and big things are expected of them. Contracts that don't break the cap, like some other teams have, and allows the team to be able to fill out a quality roster around them every year. At number 6, I've got Mike Matheson. He's got 3 years left at $4.875 million. And for your number one defenseman, that's not too bad. Is he a typical number one? No, but he's playing like one here in Montreal. A local kid, 29 years old, in his prime, and delivering like a number one with 34 points in 48 games played last season. An effortlessly smooth skater. A puck mover who is extremely mobile and effective. You have to live with his mistakes and bad penalties from time to time, which he more than makes up for with his puck movement and production. A leader on the ice, and I'm sure in the room as well, who I think will wear an A on his jersey this season. A good mentor and leader for this young group of defensemen. Kirby Dach checks in at number 5. 3 years left at $3.362 million. An emerging number 2 center who can be physically dominating and is capable of taking over a game with his speed, puck control, and his physical dominance. He'll probably deliver 50 to 60 points and 20 plus goals and solidify that second line as a productive scoring line, along with Alex Newhook. I think by the end of the 23-24 season, we may be calling this a steal of a deal for what he delivers overall. You know he'll be getting a big raise on his next contract, but for the next 3 years, Kirby Dach will develop into one of the best 2Cs in the league, in my opinion, and we'll get to see it happen at a very good price. Raphael Harvey-Pinard holds down the number 4 spot. He's got 2 years on his new contract at $1.1 million AAV. In my opinion, RHP is taking over the role Paul Byron had on this team. A Swiss Army knife, a guy that will deliver quality minutes wherever you play him up and down the lineup. When you consider that most of us thought Byron at $3.4 million AAV was overpaid, then RHP at $1.1 million AAV is a huge bargain, especially if forced into the top 6 because of injuries, like last season. His 14 goals in 34 games last season was 9th among rookies. All guys that played double the games that he did. There's a lot of promise with RHP, and he delivers value for the dollar. At number 3, I've got Alex Newhook. 4 years, $2.9 million AAV. Newcomer Alex Newhook has something to prove to the NHL and to the Habs fans that didn't like the trade to acquire him, giving up a first round and a second round pick. Those picks are valuable, yes, and GM Hughes needed to use them to get a valuable piece to Montreal's rebuild. A player who is here now, has a Stanley Cup ring, and is only 22 years old, full of potential that he hasn't fully fulfilled yet. In my opinion, he'll start doing just that this season, and at what I think is going to be a very good price at $2.9 million. And by the time the 4 years comes and goes, Newhook will cash in because he'll have delivered the goods, and that $2.9 million will seem as a hell of a bargain for a player who should be producing 50-plus points by then and just hitting his prime years. Another great contract delivered by the Shark, GM Kent Hughes. We're at number 2, and that's where you'll find Sean Monahan. 1 year, $1.985 million. Any way you slice it up, in my opinion, this is a great deal. Zero risk for the 1 year, and if he can't play the full season, the $2 million is peanuts, even if you can't place him on the LTIR. But if he can play a full season, you get a potential 35 to 40 points by the trade deadline and a possible first-round pick in return, and you'll find a trading partner for Monahan. There's something you get on top of the production, and that's leadership and experience from a legitimate top 6 forward. A guy you can play comfortably at either center or wing, and a guy that's going to be a good mentor on the ice for whoever he plays with. At just 29 years old, if healthy all season, Monahan has a lot still to give for any team. It's not the same situation as a Mike Hoffman at 33 years old, making more than twice the money, who won't give the same intensity or production. A steal of a deal if Monahan can stay healthy all season. All right, we're down to the top spot on this list, and that's held by Sam Montembeault. You might be surprised that I say that. He's got 1 year left at $1 million, and I think he potentially can bring the biggest bang for the buck as far as contracts go this year. Now, that's potentially. He has been a third-string goalie his whole career. Sam had a really solid season in 22-23. Not only did he take the top spot by the end of the season, but he put up some really solid numbers. Considering the Habs were brutalized by injury, and he therefore had a young, porous defense in front of him, despite that, he showed poise and a calmness in even the toughest games, and ended up finishing 14th, I think, in goals saved above average, even being in the top 10 for a good portion of the season. He's in his prime now at 27. Monty seems ready to establish himself as the number one, or at least 1A. Ever since getting to Montreal via waivers, Monty has displayed a steady improvement. His positioning and puck tracking, his quickness in his reflexes and lateral movement give me hope for him going forward. He still has a lot to prove, but if we see the same kind of progress this season as last, and Monty stays healthy, he could thrive, especially if there's improvement in front of him. I'm talking about the young D. Then Monty's contract could be the best deal Montreal has at $1 million, especially if he gets them to the playoffs. Thanks for watching, and let me know what you think. Did I get it right? Let me know in the comments. And if you like the video, give a thumbs up. Appreciate that. Till next time, stay safe out there. Peace out, y'all. Ciao, everybody.